It was still dark outside when I heard the pounding on my front door. Not a gentle knock. It was frantic, desperate, the kind that doesn't ask to be answered but demands it. I jolted awake, my heart thundering in my chest. The clock beside my bed glowed 5:02 a.m., a time too early for visitors, too early for anything but bad news. I slipped out of bed, tugged on my sweatshirt, and moved toward the door, every creak of the floorboards echoing through the stillness. My breath came slow but uneven, my body already bracing for something I couldn't yet name. When I opened the door, the cold air slapped my face, and there he was, Gabriel Stone, my next-door neighbor. Usually calm, reserved, and almost ghost-like in how little he spoke. But this morning, he looked like a man who'd seen something unspeakable. His face was ashen, his eyes wide and bloodshot, his breathing sharp and shallow as though he had sprinted all the way from hell itself to my doorstep. "Don't go to work today," he said. His voice wasn't loud, it was tight, trembling with something darker than fear. "Stay home. Just trust me." I blinked, disoriented, my mind trying to catch up. "What are you talking about?" I asked, gripping the doorframe. The air between us felt charged, electric, as if the world itself was holding its breath. Gabriel shook his head, his eyes darting across the street, scanning the shadows as if they might reach out and grab him. "I can't explain right now," he whispered, his tone shaking. "Just promise me you won't leave the house today." Not for any reason. For a second I couldn't speak. The faint pink of dawn had just begun bleeding into the horizon, painting his pale face in an eerie light. Gabriel, the man who barely nodded hello when I saw him checking his mail, now looked like he was about to break apart. "Gabriel, you're scaring me," I managed. "Why shouldn't I go?" "What's happening?" He hesitated, his lips parting as though wrestling with whether to tell me the truth. Then his voice dropped to a whisper so faint I almost didn't catch it. "You'll understand by noon." Before I could ask another word, he turned, fast, like he'd suddenly remembered he shouldn't be seen here, and walked back toward his house. I watched him glance over his shoulder, scanning the neighborhood again, his movements jittery and unnatural. Then he disappeared inside. I stood frozen, my hand still resting on the doorknob. The world felt too quiet. Even the wind had stilled. The rational part of me wanted to laugh it off. Maybe he was having a breakdown. Maybe he was on something. But the other part, the instinctive animal part that never lies, whispered, "Listen to him," and deep down, I knew why I couldn't dismiss it. 3 months ago, I lost my father. The death certificate said stroke, but the truth, it never felt that simple. In the week before he died, he'd called me twice, saying there was something important, something about our family, that he needed to show me. Each time, his voice had been thick with fear. "It's time you knew," he said. But that conversation never came. He was gone before we ever met. Since then, things hadn't felt right. A black sedan parked for hours near my driveway, its tinted windows hiding whoever sat inside. My phone ringing at odd hours, silence waiting on the other end. My younger sister Sophie calling from overseas, whispering through the static, "Alyssa, have you noticed anyone new in the neighborhood?" I had laughed it off then. I'm not laughing now. My name is Alyssa Rowan, 33 years old, a financial analyst at Henning & Cole Investments. I live alone in the house my grandmother left me. My life had always been neat, structured, a line of perfect numbers in an Excel sheet. But this morning, everything felt off balance. Like a page had turned in a book I didn't realize I was in. I made a choice, not out of fear, but logic. If Gabriel was wrong, I'd just waste a day. If he was right, I might be saving my life. I texted my manager, said there was a personal emergency, and waited. Hours crept by in slow motion. Every sound in the house magnified, the hum of the fridge, the ticking of the kitchen clock, the sighing wind pressing against the windows like something alive. My nerves buzzed like static. By 11:30 a.m., I started to feel ridiculous. Nothing had happened. Gabriel hadn't returned. Maybe I had let paranoia win. Maybe grief was twisting my mind in subtle ways. And then, my phone rang. An unknown number. I almost ignored it. But something, A pull in my gut made me swipe. Hello? Ma'am, a calm male voice said, clipped and official. This is Officer Taylor with the County Police Department. Are you aware of a critical incident that occurred at your workplace this morning? My blood went cold. What incident? There was a pause. Then his voice shifted. Quieter now. Careful. There was a violent attack at your building. Several employees were injured. We have reason to believe you were present. My chest tightened. That's impossible. I wasn't there. Silence. Then the officer replied, We have footage of your car arriving at 8:02 a.m. Your work ID was used to enter the building, and witnesses say you were last seen on the 3rd floor before the attack. I froze. The room tilted. My knees nearly gave out as I gripped the edge of the table for balance. Someone had used my car, my ID, my name. Someone wanted the world to believe I was there. The officer's voice stayed even, but beneath the calm was something else. Urgency, dread, maybe even pity. Ms. Rowan, he said, your coworkers confirmed seeing you enter the building. We have time-stamped footage of your vehicle pulling into the parking garage. I swallowed hard, pressing the phone closer. That's not possible, I whispered. I've been home all morning. I didn't go to work today. A long pause. Then the question that made my blood turn to ice. Can anyone verify that? I looked around my empty living room. The ticking clock. The faint hum of the fridge. The silence. No, I whispered. I live alone. The officer exhaled, tone changing, turning colder, almost procedural now. Ms. Rowan, he said, at approximately 11:47 a.m. And that's when everything shifted. Because what happened next revealed the truth Gabriel Stone had tried to protect me from. If you want to know what the police told me next, and why I was never supposed to survive, this day, stay here, because noon was only the, beginning, and by the time the clock struck 12, my life would belong to someone else. The moment Officer Taylor's voice shifted, something in me knew the world I'd known was about to collapse. Ms. Rowan, he said, steady and official, an emergency alert was triggered on the 3rd floor of your building. A coordinated attack took place. You were reported missing from the scene. We are required to locate you for your safety. He paused. And for questioning. My grip on the phone tightened until my knuckles turned white. Questioning? The word echoed like a gunshot in my mind. Why would I need to be questioned? I hadn't even been there. Then came the silence. Long, deliberate, as if the officer were weighing every syllable that followed. Evidence was found in the building, he finally said. Items belonging to you were recovered near the scene of the incident. My stomach dropped. Items belonging to me? I felt my mind stall, the words freezing mid-thought. That's when the image of Gabriel came flooding back. His pale, haunted face, the urgency in his voice, the warning at dawn. Don't go to work today. Someone had planned this, and somehow I was part of that plan, either as the prey or the perfect scapegoat. I'm telling you, I wasn't there, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Someone must have cloned my keycard or... I stopped. The thought hit me so hard it was like a physical punch to the chest. My car, I whispered. Did you see who got out of the car in that footage? There was a brief crackle of static. Then the officer spoke, quieter now, as if he didn't want someone else to hear. The footage is corrupted. We don't see the face. Only the vehicle entering with your plates clearly visible. A cold sweat slid down my spine. My pulse quickened. Whoever orchestrated this had access, not just to my car or my key card, but to me. My identity hadn't been stolen. It had been replaced. I walked to the window, slowly pulling back the curtain just enough to peer outside. The morning light had shifted into something harsher, too bright, too sharp. My heart raced. Was someone out there? Watching me? Waiting for me to panic? Before I could ask another question, the officer's tone hardened. Units will be arriving at your address shortly. Please do not leave the premises. That was the moment my instincts snapped into overdrive. If Gabriel had told me not to go to work, and someone had gone there as me, then the police weren't necessarily coming for my safety. They could be coming to collect me, to finish the story that had already been written in my name. As soon as the call ended, I moved fast. I shut every blind, locked every door, and turned off the lights. The silence inside my house became unbearable, the kind that amplifies the beat of your own heart until it feels deafening. My breath came shallow, uneven. I tried to piece together every odd moment from the past few weeks. The man in the black suit watching from a parked car, the emails from strange senders asking if I'd be in office Tuesday, the subtle misplacements of objects in my house I'd blamed on fatigue. It wasn't paranoia. It was preparation. Then, a knock. Sharp. Controlled. Not frantic. Not friendly. Deliberate. I froze. Another knock. Then a voice. "Alyssa, it's Gabriel. Open the door. We need to talk." My heart leapt into my throat. I stayed silent, listening. His voice was steady, low, too calm for the chaos outside. I moved closer but didn't unlock the door. "How did you know the police would call me?" I asked through the wood. His reply came instantly, cold and certain. "Because they're not coming to help you. They're coming to place you under federal custody. You were never meant to wake up in your own bed this morning." The words hit like ice water. My thoughts spun. "What are you talking about?" Gabriel's tone sharpened. "They staged the incident to eliminate everyone in that building, Alyssa. And you were supposed to be there. Not as a victim, but as the one they would blame." I felt the blood drain from my face. He paused, listening to the quiet, then added, "Now they need you alive long enough to confess to something you didn't do." A cold realization rippled through me. Whoever orchestrated this didn't just want me gone. They wanted me rewritten. Erased, then replaced with a new version of me that fit their story, and whatever was going to happen at noon. It was never about the building. It was about me. I unlocked the door. Slowly. Not because I trusted Gabriel completely, but because I trusted my fear even less. The door creaked open just enough for me to see his face. Alert. Tense. Scanning the street like a soldier expecting a sniper's bullet. He didn't wait for permission. He stepped inside, closing the door behind him with quiet precision. "They're already on their way," he said, his voice taut with urgency. "You have minutes, maybe less, before they arrive and declare this house a crime scene." I crossed my arms, trying to steady my breathing. "Why me, Gabriel? What's going on?" He didn't answer right away. Instead, he moved to the kitchen window and peeled back the curtain with 2 fingers, scanning the neighborhood like he'd done it 1,000 times before. When he finally turned, his eyes were different, darker, resigned. "Alyssa," he said quietly, "I didn't move here by accident. I moved here to watch over you. Your father asked me to." It felt like the ground shifted beneath me. "My father?" I whispered. "No. My father was an accountant. Gabriel cut me off, his expression grave. "Your father never worked in finance. That was his cover. He was involved in a covert federal investigation for nearly 2 decades. And you," his voice faltered for the first time. "You were part of the reason." I stared at him, my mouth dry. "What does that mean?" He reached into his jacket slowly, like someone unholstering a weapon, and pulled out a small black envelope. He held it out to me. "Your father knew this would happen one day. He left this for you." I hesitated, my hands trembling as I took it. The paper inside was thick, folded twice, the handwriting unmistakable. "My father's, Alyssa," it read. "If you are reading this, then what I feared has come to pass. You are not in danger because of anything you did. You are in danger because of who you are. There is more to your identity than you know. Gabriel will tell you the rest. Trust him as you once trusted me. Do not surrender yourself. If they take you in, you will disappear. Dad," the word came out as a whisper. My knees weakened. He had known. He had known. Every cryptic comment, every late-night phone call, every time he said, "There are things you're better off not knowing yet." I thought he was being dramatic. Now those words sounded like tombstone warnings. Gabriel met my eyes. They're not just framing you, he said. They're reclaiming you. Reclaiming? I repeated, my voice barely audible. He nodded. You were never just a civilian, Alyssa. Your birth was not a coincidence. Your identity was constructed. Your father uncovered a classified biogenetic program, one tied to prominent families and powerful bloodlines. When he refused to cooperate, he became a liability. His death wasn't natural. He took a step closer, his tone dropping into something almost mournful. You were meant to be eliminated next. But they found a better use for you. I stared at him, the envelope still clutched in my shaking hand. My pulse roared in my ears. What do you mean, a better use? Gabriel looked toward the window again, and the faint reflection of red and blue lights began to flicker on the glass. He turned back to me. Because, Alyssa, he whispered, you're not who you think you are. Outside, engines rumbled. Tires crushed gravel, and the first police cruiser stopped at the end of my driveway. I remember the silence before he said it, that heavy electric pause that made the air itself feel like it was holding its breath. To use me as what? I asked, my voice low, barely steady. He took a step closer, eyes glinting like cold steel beneath the flickering light. As a scapegoat, Gabriel said. They needed a story, a narrative that would justify the next phase of their plan. A false flag event. A tragedy that looks real, feels real, but is completely manufactured. And you... He hesitated, his jaw tightening. You were meant to be the face of it. The words hit me like shrapnel. For a moment, the room itself seemed to tilt. My mind reeled backward through the chaos of the past few months. Every odd encounter, every phone call that clicked too soon, every unmarked car that lingered just a moment too long near my home. Every fragment of paranoia I had pushed away suddenly aligned into one horrifying truth. So all of this, I said slowly, feeling my pulse thudding against my ribs, was staged. To destroy my life? Gabriel didn't flinch. His gaze was sharp, unwavering. Not just your life, he said. Your legitimacy. Once they label you a national threat, everything connected to your father's investigation becomes fair game. They can seize every file, every document, every recording. They can bury his work, and the truth he died trying to protect, under layers of national security. He reached into his coat, his movements deliberate, and pulled out something small and metallic. Under the dim light, I saw the glint of a red emblem stamped on a metal keycard. This, he said, placing it in my hand, is access to a storage vault your father used before he died. Inside are encrypted files, names, dates, everything. If you don't reach that vault before they reach you, it all disappears. Everything he sacrificed will vanish. The weight of the keycard felt heavier than metal. It was legacy, betrayal, blood. I looked from it to the crumpled note my father had left behind, his handwriting trembling but deliberate. For so long, I had believed I was no one, a background figure, a shadow, ordinary, replaceable, invisible. But now I saw the truth clearly, and it burned. I was never invisible. I was never replaceable. I was watched, controlled, because I was the final piece of a puzzle someone powerful had killed to keep unsolved. Then, the sound. A wail of sirens, distant at first, then closer, slicing through the night like a scream. Gabriel's eyes flicked toward the front window. They're here, but he wasn't afraid. And for the first time since that morning, neither was I, because fear thrives in uncertainty. And I no longer had doubt. I folded my father's letter, slipped the keycard into my pocket, and looked at Gabriel. Show me where we need to go. He nodded once, and in that instant, I stepped over an invisible threshold, leaving behind the life I thought I knew and entering the truth I was born to face. We barely made it to his SUV before the first unmarked vehicles turned onto my street. Black, sleek, silent, predators in the dark. The sirens cut off. They didn't need them anymore. They weren't coming as law enforcement. They were coming for recovery. Get in! Gabriel barked. The door slammed. Tires screeched. The night blurred past us. Through the rear window, I saw two men exit one of the cars, scanning the area. One of them lifted a radio to his mouth. His expression was cold, detached, the look of a man retrieving stolen property, not rescuing a human being. As the highway lights streaked by, a strange stillness washed over me. The fear that had lived in my chest for weeks was gone, replaced by something sharper. Focus. Clarity. Like a lock finally turning open. For 20 long minutes, the only sound was the engine and the hum of the tires beneath us. Then Gabriel spoke. "There's something you need to see before we reach the vault," he said. "Once you see it, you'll understand why they've been watching you your entire life." He handed me a tablet. The screen flickered to life, revealing a file. My name at the top, Rowan Alyssa. Subject 7B designation, genomic asset. Priority, high project, origin initiative. My breath caught as I scrolled through the data, graphs, blood markers, genetic codes. Then the notes, subject exhibits complete immunity to multiple viral strains, possible regenerative blood properties, approved for Phase 2 integration. Phase 2? I whispered. Regenerative. Immune to what? Gabriel kept his eyes on the road, jaw clenched. 20 years ago, he said, your father uncovered a classified biogenetics program. It wasn't about curing disease. It was about building a new kind of human, one that could survive what others couldn't. Outbreaks, chemical warfare, environmental collapse. You were never supposed to know. I stared at the tablet, light flickering over my hands, my heart hammering. My father was part of this? He wasn't supposed to be, Gabriel replied quietly. He found out by accident when he noticed anomalies in your childhood medical records. He discovered samples of your blood stored in labs he never authorized. He realized they were studying you without. He stopped, his words breaking off as a pair of headlights appeared in the rearview mirror, bright, fast, gaining. And in that reflection, I saw the truth fully bloom into horror. They weren't just after me because of what I knew. They were after me because of what I was. The engine hummed beneath us, a low mechanical heartbeat as the world outside blurred into a wash of white streaks and shadows. Gabriel's words hung in the air between us, sharp, irreversible. He tried to pull you from the program, he said, voice steady but low. But that wasn't an option. The highway lights slashed across his face in fleeting bursts, each flash revealing the quiet storm in his eyes. My thoughts tumbled through themselves, too heavy, too tangled to hold. Me. A subject. A project. A target. Each word burned like a brand seared into my mind. Gabriel continued, his tone firm, almost clinical, like he was forcing control over a truth that wanted to scream. Your father leaked the existence of the program to a federal oversight board, he said. The board ordered it shut down, but instead of ending it, his jaw tightened. The people at the top erased everything. The investigation, the files, and everyone who knew. The realization struck like lightning. Everyone, I whispered, including my father. He nodded once, eyes dark. They made it look like a stroke. But it wasn't. He was poisoned. A neurotoxin developed by the same project he tried to expose. His death wasn't a tragedy. It was a message. My throat tightened. For the first time, I didn't see my father as the quiet man who buried himself in work, or the distant figure haunted by things he never spoke of. I saw him as a man who had made an impossible choice, to sacrifice everything to keep me alive, to shield me from a world that had written my fate before I was even old enough to understand it. They plan to retrieve you on your 33rd birthday, Gabriel said, voice lower now. But something changed. Your blood test last month triggered an internal alert. That's why they accelerated the timeline. He glanced at me. That's why they staged the attack at your workplace today. If you'd shown up, you wouldn't be here now. You'd be listed as dead. Or worse, disappeared. Dead or erased, I murmured, the words tasting metallic in my mouth. And now? They'll frame you, Gabriel said flatly. Declare you a domestic threat. It's called Asset Recovery Protocol. Once it begins, there's no undoing it. I gripped the tablet in my hands until my knuckles went white. Why frame me? Why not just take me quietly? Because they don't just want your body, he said, his voice deepening, eyes flicking to the mirror where headlights glowed in the distance. They want control over your story. If the world believes you're dangerous, no one will question what they do with you. We turned off the main road. The concrete bled away into dirt, the night swallowing us whole. The headlights cut through the trees as we followed a narrow forest path, branches scraping against the car like skeletal hands. The air grew colder, thinner, as if even nature was holding its breath. My heartbeat steadied, slow and deliberate. I wasn't living the life I once knew. I was stepping into the one I was born for. Finally, the trees broke, revealing a clearing, and at its center, half buried beneath an overgrown hill, stood what looked like a forgotten bunker. Its rusted door leaned under decades of silence. Gabriel parked the SUV and turned to me, his face half lit by the dash lights. "You have one last decision, Alyssa," he said softly. "Once you walk inside, there's no going back. You'll know everything. But once you do, they'll never stop hunting you." I met his gaze, my voice steady. "I've been hunted my whole life without knowing why," I said. "It's time I find out what's inside me that they're so desperate to control." He nodded once. "Then let's begin." The air outside bit into my skin as I stepped out. The bunker door groaned when Gabriel forced it open, the sound echoing like something ancient awakening from sleep. As we descended into the dark, the door sealed behind us with a deep, metallic thud that vibrated through the floor, like the heartbeat of something buried. The air was cold and still, untouched. It didn't feel abandoned. It felt preserved. Waiting, not for anyone, but for me. Gabriel led the way down a long corridor lined with thick steel doors. Each step echoed. My own breath sounded foreign in my ears. With every stride, something inside me stirred, a pull deep in my chest, quiet but undeniable. Recognition. My body knew this place, even if my mind didn't. We stopped at a vault door engraved with a symbol I'd only ever seen once, the Rowan family crest. My father had shown it to me in a drawing when I was a child, saying it belonged to our distant ancestors. But now, standing before it, I knew the truth. It wasn't heritage. It was a designation. Gabriel motioned toward a small panel. "Your DNA will open it," he said. I hesitated. "How can you be sure?" He looked at me, eyes heavy with something that felt like guilt. "Because your father told me," he said. "He said the vault will only open for his bloodline. And you are the last, not just of my family, but of a secret lineage built in shadow." I pressed my palm to the scanner. A faint blue pulse rippled under my skin. The vault emitted a soft chime, then rotated open with a low mechanical sigh. Cold air spilled out, carrying the scent of dust, aged paper, and something heartbreakingly familiar. Home. The room inside was circular, lined with rows of black storage boxes marked with coded numbers. In the center, beneath a glass case, rested a single leather-bound journal. My father's. My fingers trembled as I lifted the casing and opened the book to a bookmarked page. Inside, a letter in his handwriting. My daughter. If you are reading this, the lies around your life have fallen away. You were never an accident. You were never property. You are proof that human immunity can evolve, not engineered, but born. They did not create you. They feared you. It is not what was done to you that makes you powerful. It is what you already are. You are the future they cannot control. Tears blurred the ink as I closed my eyes. My father hadn't died protecting me. He'd died protecting what I represented, not a weapon. A possibility, a hope. On the next page was a final note, a decision. At the far end of this vault is the master terminal. One command gives them what they want. Your compliance. The other releases the truth to the world. Once you choose, everything changes. I turned to Gabriel. He didn't speak, didn't guide me. He simply said, "Your father trusted you to decide, not as a subject, but as a human being." I walked toward the terminal, every step slower than the last. 2 buttons glowed beneath glass. Acquisition protocol, surrender, revelation, protocol, exposure. If I pressed the first, I might live. But chained. If I pressed the second, I'd ignite a war. My breath steadied. My father's voice echoed in my mind. "You were not born to be controlled." I pressed revelation. The chamber hummed, lights flickering. A digital countdown flashed on the screen. Data streamed in waves, encrypted files, names, transactions, lab coordinates, racing toward global media servers my father had prepared years ago. Gabriel exhaled, almost in disbelief. "It's done," he said. "You just changed the world." But before I could respond, alarms exploded, sirens, red lights. "They found us," Gabriel shouted. We ran through the tunnel, the sound of boots and rotor blades above shaking the ground. But I wasn't afraid. Not anymore. We burst into the open air. Helicopters swept the forest, searchlights slicing through the night. But I didn't see hunters anymore. I saw a dying empire, the last gasp of a machine built on lies. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't running from them. I was leading the fight against them, because I was no longer a subject. I was the story they could never silence. The beginning of something entirely new.